I grew up in South Africa, originally, started off in Cape Town. My dad got a job up in Johannesburg, so we moved up closer to Johannesburg in Krugersdorp. And then after high school, I got the opportunity to come and play rugby here in the States. And that was my ticket over. So I came and that snowballed into an offer to come to college here and play rugby for one of the local teams. The long story of me getting to found Fairstream was that I spent way too much time playing rugby in college and way too little time networking. So by the time I got to the end of my college career, I panicked. Like I was like, what am I going to do? I want a really good job, but I haven't met anyone that can hook me up. I didn't have the typical connections that all of the other students seem to have. I'd come from South Africa. I was the first one in my family to graduate from college. And it was incredibly difficult to make a connection to land a job. So I scrambled and fortunately, I was introduced to someone who went out of their way to help me land a job at a great company. This person worked at LinkedIn and they gave me an idea of the process, how to get into the company. They told me the tricks and tips, how to talk about my experience. And they coached me and referred me and did all of these things to the point where by the time I had my final interview, it was just such a smooth conversation that I ended up landing the job, which I had no right landing at the time. So from that point on, I had this goal that I was going to pay it forward to someone else and help other people that didn't have the experience or the background or the schools or didn't grow up in the right neighborhood, to help them get a great job, a top job. Kind of put that in the back of my mind and worked in talent acquisition. I was an MBA recruiter at first at LinkedIn, and then I ended up selling LinkedIn's talent solution. So I worked with companies like Osprey Pax and Quibi. They were these companies that were growing super fast. But what I found interesting, and this is where kind of light bulbs started to go off in my head, was that they kept on telling me that they struggled to attract underrepresented talents. So underrepresented is here in the States is African American, Latino, Native American, and female candidates. I just thought this was crazy, right? Like they had all of the money and all of the tools at their disposal, but they couldn't attract a representative team. The team typically mirrored the co-founding team. And so I was like, okay, this is crazy. Let me start thinking about ways that we could solve this. And so in my spare time, I was brainstorming ways that we could kind of bridge the gap between all of these candidates who needed the work and wanted the jobs and these great companies that wanted them, but just didn't have a connection. So, eventually came up with a couple of ideas and submitted them to an accelerator program, not thinking much of it. I was actually on paternity leave at the time. LinkedIn gives you 3 months of paternity leave. So I'm like twiddling my thumbs, thinking, what should I do? So I started pitching this idea to investors and accelerators. And we were fortunate enough to get in. Then my co-founder and I were like, oh crap, now we need to leave our jobs at LinkedIn. And he was at Workday at the time. And we scrambled. We decided on a late night call on Sunday that we were going to leave our jobs, and we took the plunge and ended up starting with this accelerator. Started testing these ideas, and ultimately what we found was the very best way to connect underrepresented candidates to these tech companies and companies that needed them was through virtual events. And the light bulb moment where we realized that was the case was on a Sunday night. We decided, because we had tested out a couple of ideas and we heard about the pandemic, we decided we were going to do a virtual career fair. Not knowing anything about doing a virtual career fair, we set the date for 3 weeks out. And we said, hey, we're going to have, on Monday morning, we announced it on LinkedIn that we were going to have this virtual career fair 3 weeks out. And if you're interested, you can just sign up at this link. That's all we had. But the post, because of the pandemic, went viral. And almost overnight, 3,000 people signed up for that event.
Wow.
And so we were like, holy Toledo, what are we going to do? We scrambled, didn't sleep for 3 weeks and put together an event. And fortunately, it was just incredible. We had a virtual DJ. He was the DJ for the Utah Jazz and NBA team out here. We had 20 companies come through and present. We had amazing speakers like Madeline Mann and Austin Bells. Like we were all like really big voices in the career coaching space, and they're all willing to do it for low cost or free because it was a pandemic and everyone was helping each other out. It just turned out to be this really cool experience. And so we realized through that event that we could connect these two groups together. And so we started building a platform where this could happen on an ongoing basis. So we built this tool and then started partnering with underrepresented associations so that they could come in, host career fairs for their members, and then have amazing companies join, which we do the work to go and get. Since then, we've been scaling. Last year, we ran over 100 events since that event.